I was keeping a food journal at the time, figure out, like what's kind of bothering me and whatnot. And it was everything I ate. I mean, I would circle it, I remember, in red marker, and it would be everything I ate, even though I was on this medication that would still cause me pain. My family was never big into fast food or anything like that, or like eating out, but I mean, we had meat at every single meal. I mean, milk, cheese, all the dairy products. So yeah, I started eating plant-based and thought, like, if you guys can do it, why can't I? And definitely a learning experience and learning curve, to say the least. But yeah, started eating plant-based and then slowly noticed it, like my symptoms were fewer and fewer. Yeah, just learning about the meds. It's like the different side effects, and not only that, but like the stuff that they don't know about these meds yet. These are all newer, or a lot of them are newer meds that were just given to people and saying good luck with, Yeah, I kept eating plant-based and I did not have too many, I have not had a flare-up or anything since. I know when I like started sleeping through the night again, I was like, oh my God, like I forgot what this is like. I'm not waking up multiple times, like running to the bathroom and in pain. And so yeah, that was huge. Just being able to really have your life back, to go out and like I can go on hikes, I can go on runs, I can go to the gym, which is the biggest thing. I love weightlifting. I'm able to do that without any worry or wondering, where's the bathroom or anything like that, which is amazing. If I can do it, especially coming from the small town that eats meat and cheese and whatever, like you can do it. It's scary to start, but it's so worth it.
Give this video a thumbs up if you know what it's like to live with IBD, and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. This channel is designed to help people recover from colitis, Crohn's, and any other form of IBD. You can always head to our website, highcarbhealth.com, for a free 30-minute consultation from anywhere in the world. And remember, there is a life after colitis. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. I'm your host, Shakul, and I'm joined here by Josie Lennon. Welcome to the show.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, my name is Josie. I work as a nurse. I'm actually from Iowa, like in the United States. But I'm 20 years old and I was diagnosed with Crohn's at 17. But I've been on a plant-based diet now for like two and a half years, and been off meds for about a year and a half, and I've never felt better.
Fantastic. Yeah, so Josie's got a very interesting story because she didn't actually fully work with us, but she did talk to us initially. She did the free initial consult and got some advice about what to do from Shamiz, and she kind of took control of her own health. And we're going to have a really interesting discussion around how she's been able to unpack all of that knowledge, and kind of coming from a medical background, being a nurse, and then kind of being exposed to this other side, which was probably very foreign to you, Josie. Initially thinking, how is this possible? Probably. So yeah, I mean, kind of. Let's start off talking about that perspective. Like as a person who's studying nursing, I think you've just been registered, haven't you?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you're studying nursing as you get diagnosed with this medically incurable condition. What's going through your head as you kind of get all this information?
It was very hard. And I was in high school when I was diagnosed, so I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do yet. I actually wanted to join the Air Force and be a flight nurse in there. And I remember my nurse, she had said, she's like, yeah, like you can do anything that you want, but you'll never be in the military. And that like crushed me, because I was like, what is going on? Like, what is this, medically incurable disease? And the first thing that they did was want to put me on medication. But thank gosh, I mean, my mom, she had always said, like, we're not going on prednisone. Like, that's the one that I want to keep you off of. But right away I was put on Humira. And then the more I learned when I got into nursing school, the more I kind of learned about the body and just following you guys. It was like, I don't know how much I really want to be on this, especially, I mean, for the rest of your life, that's a big idea or pill to swallow, really, to be on a medication the rest of your life. So
Yeah, absolutely. So let's kind of start from the beginning and talk about what some of the symptoms you experienced as you kind of started thinking, oh, something's not right here. And then kind of like how you got diagnosed and conversations with your medical team, etc.
So I started getting sick going into my senior year of high school. Pretty much anything I ate would just, my stomach would hurt and cramp. And then once I started school and I started playing volleyball, it was, I mean, it would be every single game where I would be like doubled over in pain and would be having to take like pills, worried that I'm going to, have an accident on the court, which was extremely embarrassing. And like that went on for 4 or 5 months, I think, where I'd be waking up
Mm,
like 10 to 12 times in the middle of the night, like running to the bathroom. So then at that point, it was like my grades were dropping. I was exhausted. I was not doing well in school. And like, I remember my mom looked at me the one morning and she was like, "What is going on?" And I like broke down because just in my family, we didn't really talk about this sort of thing.
it's
So I
quite the
told her,
common thing not to talk about. It's not a
yeah,
very,
yeah,
and we're trying to like normalize this because everyone has
yeah.
bowel motions, everyone has these kind of things. But yeah, you're right. People don't talk about
Exactly. No, no, we don't. And I'm very close with all my family, but yeah, it's
it.
just something we did not talk about. So then I finally kind of broke down and told her, like, I don't know. And then she got me into the doctor right away. And just in the
Mm,
week I remember, I think I had an appointment on like a Monday and then also a Friday. And during that time period, like I had lost 10 pounds without even trying, just from like not getting any nutrition.
mm,
And so then they diagnosed me. I had all the scopes, I had everything done, which also at 17 was
mm,
horrifying. Um,
mm,
and I didn't really, I mean, I didn't tell any friends or family. Even to this day, I could probably count on both my hands, like how many people I've told, just because I didn't want anyone to think anything different, I guess, or know of like a weakness.
mm,
But so I got diagnosed, and part of me was almost like, oh my gosh, like, okay, I'm not, like, there is something wrong. It's not just like the flu or something. But
mm,
right away, when they told me, you're going to be on meds for the rest of your life, that one did not settle well with me. But I started up on Humira, and I was doing injections every 2 weeks. And I started on a higher dose or whatever, and it stopped my flare for a little bit. And then I hated doing the injections so much. I hated it. Like
mm,
I just kept putting it off, and I'd put it off, and then I was like, okay, I have to do this.
mm,
But from the injections, like, that was not fun, to say the least. I would get a big red mark on my leg, and I mean, nobody likes to get stabbed with a needle. But
mm,
so I was doing those injections, and then I came across, I think it was your guys' page, and then a few other like plant-based healing, Crohn's and colitis pages on Instagram.
mm,
Started looking into that, and then um, I was keeping a food journal at the time, figure out, like, what's kind of bothering me and whatnot. And it was everything I ate. I mean, I would circle it, I remember, in red marker, and it would be everything I ate, even though I was on this medication that would still cause
mm.
me pain.
Well, I was
So
going to ask you actually, because what was your diet like? I guess
just
growing up
standard
in
American
in the
diet.
US, yeah, standard
Yeah,
American
yeah,
diet.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, my family was never big into fast food or anything like
Mm,
that, or really eating out. But I mean, we had meat at every single meal. I mean,
mhm,
milk, cheese, all the dairy products.
mhm,
And I was keeping that food journal and kind of like, well, none of this is working.
mm,
And so then the one day I kind of just cold turkey stopped eating everything meat, animal product related, and thought, I'm gonna try this out. And where I'm from,
mhm.
like, even the word vegan like makes people shudder. I feel like in the Midwest, like, people just don't do that. So that was a very interesting thing to try. But at that point, I was graduated from high school, so that made it a little bit easier. And my parents and family. I mean, I couldn't have done it without them. Like, they'd make a separate meal for me at night because I'd be studying for nursing school. Like, but so yeah, I started eating plant-based and thought, you know, like, if you guys can do it, why can't I? And definitely a learning experience and learning curve, to say the least. But yeah, started eating plant-based and then slowly noticed it, like, my symptoms were fewer and fewer, started feeling better. And I told my doctor, I was like, I want to be off meds. I don't want to do this. And I kind of talked about a plant-based diet, and, you know, she said, diet has nothing to do with this.
It's like they're trained to say that. Like when they get their gastro training, you know, it's like, okay, what to say to clients. Okay, first thing you tell them when they ask about diet. Diet has nothing to do with this. It's like this common theme that almost every, you know, IBD patient has the same kind of story.
Yes, exactly. But so she had said diet has nothing to do with it, and I didn't really listen. And then I started weaning myself off meds and eating plant-based, and here we are, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that was an interesting thing you mentioned to us a little bit earlier about your previous diet, saying that, you know, you weren't a big like fast food eater or a processed food eater. So basically, it was what people would have been considering a healthy, balanced.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, what you're supposed to do, and as we know, the evidence all points to animal protein being one of the biggest risk factors. So if your diet's really high in animal protein, and you're not eating enough fiber, and you know, just not keeping your body clean on the inside, these kind of things, you know, whether it's an IBD or something in your arteries or in your pancreas, or, you know, tumors turning up later on down the line, you know, it just seems to be a common kind of theme. So absolutely. So, you know, you went on a plant-based diet, but I want to kind of talk through a little bit around, you know, so obviously you started your nursing studies. Were you still on the medication at that point?
Yeah, yep, I was.
So talk us through, oh, sorry, I'll get you kind of finish that.
Nope.
Okay. So in terms of, you know, when you go through your nursing, you obviously learn about medications and side effects and all these kind of things. Can you talk a little bit about some of the things that you do kind of understand around those things?
Definitely more towards medication and side effects. I mean, we barely talked about diet and how diet has something to do with, you know, your body at all. When a patient comes in and they have high blood pressure, the first thing they do is put them on a medication. And it's like, why aren't we doing something with diet and lifestyle? Like, what's going on? Figuring out, you know, the root of the problem instead of just putting a Band-Aid over it, pretty much. But yeah, when I was in school and we started learning about the GI tract and everything, I was kind of like, everything, you know, everything that's being said, it's like, oh my gosh, that's me, you know. And so then, yeah, especially when they say, again, the medication, it's chronic condition and it's a medically incurable disease, which I hated that word so much. Just learning about the meds, it's like the different side effects, and not only that, but like the stuff that they don't know about these meds yet. These are all newer, or a lot of them are newer meds that were just given to people and saying good luck with, you know. So that was a big thing.
Yeah, when Shamiz was in hospital, we just felt like they were experimenting with him, you know, like, oh, this one doesn't work. Okay, we'll try this one. Oh, maybe, what about this one? You know, should he eat? Should he not eat? It's like they really didn't know what was going on. But I'd like you to talk to the audience a little bit about some of the IBD meds and some of the information you do know about, you know, side effects, because so many of our clients, they'll go into the doctor and there's no discussion about the risks of these medications, and there needs to be a full explanation so that people have informed consent, but it's not always given. So maybe we can kind of do that now so people can get a bit of informed consent around their medications that maybe they didn't know about before.
Yeah, I mean, I was very blindsided and taken aback as well, where it's like they say, okay, we're going to put you on this medication, and it's like, okay, if you say it's going to make me feel better,
Mm,
but like I said, the amount of unknown behind these meds and just the side effects in general that your people are experiencing. Um, for example, I had a patient once come in and had been on the infusions, which that was an option for me if I wanted to do these infusions every 4 weeks or
hmm
uh, injections every 2 weeks. And it's like, oh, geez, which one is kind of pick your poison there.
mm,
But yeah, there needs to be more research put into those, and for people just to take them like it's candy, like, okay, I guess we're going to go on this. I guess my
mm,
biggest piece of advice would be research before, and I mean, try anything else before getting put on a medication, just because there's
mm,
so much unknown still, especially with Crohn's and colitis. Like the GI tract in general, it's all about balance, and putting a medication that we don't know what it's really exactly going to do into you is not, I would not say, at least the right balance that you're gonna want. But
yeah, absolutely. And we've got a really good article on our website. If you haven't been aware of this evidence-based second opinion, if you go to High Carb Health and you look at our blog, there's a excellent piece by Dr. Renee Thomas, who's actually one of our previous guests on the podcast. And she goes into all the research. It's got 64 different references. And it talks about the medications. It tells you the different side effects. It tells you the effectiveness rates. And most people aren't aware that something like infliximab, certolizumab, all these biologic drugs, they have an effectiveness rate or an ability to put people into remission of about 35%. So
yeah,
65% of people don't actually get into remission on these drugs.
no.
And so those aren't good odds. You know what I mean? Like if you tell me you've got to take this thing and one of the side effects is non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is a cancer,
Yeah,
and you say, okay, doctor, what's the success rate? 35%. Hmm.
yep.
Not quite sure about that. I'm not quite sure I want to go down that route. But if you're not told about the information, you said, "Oh, this is your only option," then you're going to
Exactly.
just and the fear, of, oh, what if you don't take this, what if, you know,
Yeah,
but the discussion's never had of what if I actually change my lifestyle and get better. That should be the
yeah.
actual what if that we need to be
That was
talking about.
never a question. It was never a question I was asked.
Yeah, yeah. So when you shifted, talk about some of the challenges you faced as you went through the plant-based diet, not only from I guess, a change in diet perspective and a social perspective, but also, people go through a bit of withdrawal from their drugs and a detoxification of all the kind of gunk that's in their bodies. What did you experience as you went through this phase of your healing journey?
Yeah, that was one of my biggest fears, actually. That's when I first contacted you guys, because I was so nervous about, okay, I'm going off these meds. Like, am I going to detox? Like, I was working, I had school, I had all these things going on where I was like, I don't have time to be running to the toilet constantly. So I really slowly weaned myself off to the point where it was like I would wait a day to do it, and then I would wait 2 days for this next injection, and then so slowly, day by day, I would wait longer and longer for these injections to do them. And then I think I did like one a month for like a couple months. And then I was like, okay, like we're no longer going to do it. And I remember my parents were just so nervous for me too, because, they seen how sick I was at one point. But so once I had weaned myself off after the last med, I don't remember having a whole ton of symptoms. I mean, you guys said, you encouraged me keep eating plant-based and kind of go with the flow. That's the only thing that I guess you really can do at that point. But yeah, I kept eating plant-based, and I did not have too many. I have not had a flare up or anything since. But yeah, I've been off medications, but yeah, like I mentioned before, eating plant-based around here is difficult, especially when we have winter like 8 months out of the year and it's cold, and I see you guys with all these tropical fruits and it's like, oh my gosh, like that's amazing. Whereas here where everybody's talking about steak and it's just a very different lifestyle to have, but it's becoming more, I will definitely say it's becoming more of like a popular thing to do, I guess.
So apologies, we had a few technical issues there, but we're back. And Josie was just discussing how she had contacted us at High Carb Health because she was unsure about how to come off these medications. I'm really interested in hearing from you what the kind of discussion you had with Shamiz and the type of advice that he gave you as you went in to that conversation.
Yeah, so he basically just said, continue eating plant-based and, take it on head on, and whatever happens, happens. But he thought that also, since I had been weaning myself off for so long, that maybe I won't even have, a detox from these meds. And he had said, like, don't stress, don't worry about this detox because you don't even know if your body will go through it or not. And I'm really glad that he said that, because after that, I feel like I was like, okay, like it's going to be fine. Whatever happens, happens. And then, yeah, my body really did not go through a detox phase, which I was extremely thankful for as well.
Yeah, I think from experience, and for people who are watching this video, I think because Josie had started on a plant-based diet for a while before she decided to wean off the meds, that really helped strengthen her bowel, got her microbiome much more towards symbiosis and in a much stronger place, which allows the bowel lining to heal to a reasonable extent and kind of minimizes the effect that gut permeability or leaky gut can have when you've got this condition, because that can be one of the most debilitating things when there's gut permeability and then food matter or proteins and little particles are making its way into the body. So that's probably why she didn't have such a huge kind of maybe detoxification as some other people do. But the other thing is also that she hadn't been diagnosed for a very long period of time as well. So she had been diagnosed and started to make changes very quickly in her journey, which also helps compared to someone, say you'd had the Crohn's for 10 or 15 years. That's a different story.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so go through, I think we didn't fully finish on your healing journey, and so you talked to Shamiz and so you started to wean off the medication. What did you experience and how did you change your diet? Can you talk about some of the things you were eating?
Yeah, definitely. Like I kind of had mentioned before, the technical error, but it's harder, I would say, in the Midwest, just because we have winter like 8 months out of the year, half the time, and we don't have access to these amazing tropical fruits. But it is possible.
It is.
It's interesting to say the least. Like I said, you kind of have to get creative with some of this stuff, but also like down to the basics, especially right away. A lot of skinned potatoes I ate, and just a lot of researching, what I can and want to put into my body. And I remember my family was just so like confused and baffled at the beginning of like, what am I doing? Like, I'm only eating potatoes for dinner. Like, it was just very much a learning journey for all of us. But yeah, I'm very thankful that I went through it and that it went the way it did. But researching recipes, I would say, was a big thing. And just, yeah, going back to the basics, finding what works and what doesn't.
Absolutely. And that's you touched on family support is such a critical aspect. Not everyone gets it, and there's a lot of people that heal without family support as well. So it does, just because you don't have family support doesn't mean you should just say, oh, I don't think it's possible for me. But it is interesting when you make such a big change that how family react and how they respond to it, and And how how did you feel like you got the support that you wanted? Did they change any of their eating habits? Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear.
Oh yeah, they're amazing. Like I had said, I really could not do it without them. I mean,
Mm,
don't live currently at home. I live about 6 hours from home. So whenever I do
mm,
go home, constantly making my food, and my grandparents are making my food, and my dad's constantly saying, when my little brother moves out, like, we're gonna be vegan and we're gonna do all these things. So it is really cool to see them all experience and eat like my food as
mhm,
well, you know, not prove, but show like the meals are good, you don't have to have meat with everything, and like
mm.
it's just really cool to see them experience and learn as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you kind of got through that phase and you're able to get off the medication and your symptoms were good and you were kind of like, hey, I might have gotten through this.
Yeah.
Talk about how you felt and also talk about the mental aspect of what kept you positive and kind of consistent and disciplined.
Mhm.
To only eat potatoes for dinner because people say, oh, I don't know if I can do that. So what made you kind of stick to that?
Yes, so many people, that's the first thing they say is, "Oh, I could never give up chicken. I could never give up," which, I mean, I feel like a total hypocrite because I always used to say, "Oh, I could never, cheeseburgers are my favorite." And it's so crazy how much things have changed. But yeah, mindset is huge going through this because people are constantly, even to this day, people I work with and people all over are like, oh, just try a bite, just have this, and
Mm,
it's not about restricting yourself. It's just thinking, like, oh my gosh, how horrible would I feel if I ate that? Like, you even thinking back now, it's like some of the stuff that you'd eat before, it's like you don't feel good after eating it. Like when people go out and they eat these fast food meals and everything, it's like listen to your body after, like, how do you really feel after eating something like that, which that's always stuck with me. And like
mm.
the biggest thing was like, if I don't eat like this, I'm going to be miserable, so it makes it easy for me to eat like this because I feel great. I mean, I feel good. I have my life back again. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just thinking, you discussing how you would be getting up multiple times a night in crippling
oh
pain to
yeah,
not having that. I mean, I don't care what it is. If I only have to eat potatoes for the rest of my life and there's no other food I can eat, if I don't have to
yeah,
deal with those kind of symptoms, then who cares what the
exactly,
food tastes like? Yeah.
exactly. I know when I like started sleeping through the night again, I was like,
Hmm.
oh my God, like I forgot what this is like. I'm not waking up multiple times, like running to the bathroom and in pain.
Hmm.
And so yeah, that was huge.
Yeah. So, as you got out of that now, tell us what some of the changes you experienced in terms of how your body felt, uh, when you were dealing with your Crohn's compared to being healed.
Yeah, definitely. Energy is a huge one. Oh my gosh, like I was beat. Like I'd go to school when I was in high school. I'd go to school and then I'd go to whatever sport I was in after, and I would come home and wanted nothing to do. Trying to do homework or hang out with friends, anything like that was almost off the table because you're so beat down and tired. But at the same time, it was my senior year of high school and I didn't want to miss out on anything. And so you kind of, put a smile on your face and get through it. But yeah, thinking back, it's like, I don't know how I did it with just the lack of sleep, lack of energy. And yeah, now, I mean, I feel great and have energy to do all the things I want in the day, and don't necessarily feel, like, oh my gosh, I can't even get through this day. And another big thing is I don't drink caffeine.
Mhm.
And my coworkers, if any of them are watching this, they think it's the craziest thing, of not drinking caffeine, especially being in the medical profession or as a
Mm,
nurse. But yeah, I don't need it. It's
mhm.
been great.
is that because of night shifts? Like you have to try and keep yourself
Oh,
awake, and that's why is caffeine such a
everything between night shifts and just day shifts as well. I mean, people drink a whole pot of coffee or energy drinks, and it's just kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, just to give people a bit of understanding as to why, like Shamiz and I haven't had caffeine for 9, almost 10 years.
Yeah,
And the reason we don't is because it robs you of energy. It works. Caffeine is a drug, and we can't
yeah,
actually kind of shy away from that. And it's a stimulating drug, and it works through the same um, physiological pathways as cocaine does, but just at a obviously not as such a strong dose.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but it creates adrenal fatigue, and it basically overworks your kidneys and overworks your body, and your body has to create adrenaline to try and remove this substance which is toxic to the body, and you get this high
Hi. Yep.
as the body creates this adrenaline to try and remove this substance, and you get this high, and people feel like they've got more energy, but at the end of the day, they've actually got less energy than if they had not had the caffeine to start off with, because it takes away, it uses up more energy from the body. So that's the reason that we don't recommend caffeine to any of our clients, and it's not going to do good things for you long term.
No, and it's so hard on the body. I remember when I was working back home, I was working a shift or whatever, and I had taken these. I just thought it was like an art, like the artificial flavoring drink mix, and I turns out it had caffeine in it, and
Mm.
that was horrible for my Crohn's journey and did not end well, to say the least. Where it was just like people ask me, now too, like why don't you drink anything? And it's like I remember that day, and I'm like, I just don't need it. Like I don't feel good with it, but yeah, it's oofta.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, cool. So then you actually uh, talk about some of the other things that you've been able to achieve since you healed from your Crohn's disease, because I know you've run a half marathon. So talk about all these other things that you're able to do now with a healthy body, and being well nourished with food that gives you lots of, like Shamiz and I talk about the fact that we don't exercise because we want to eat certain things. It's actually because we're eating such a healthy diet, and a diet high in natural, healthy carbohydrates. We want to move our body,
Yeah.
we can't
Yeah,
sit still. We want to
definitely.
do something.
Exactly.
It's so much energy to do stuff, and that's why we exercise as much as we do. So talk about how kind of that works for you as well.
Yeah, so I mean, my senior year in high school, I was in track and field, and at that point I was on medications,
Mm-hmm.
on the Humira, and I mean, I could barely run the 1 or 200 meter dash without. I mean, I felt horrible, like wanted to run to the bathroom instead, was
Mm.
just not doing well. And my best friend and I always said, like, oh, we'll run a half marathon together. And at that point, I thought there's no way. I mean, I couldn't even run a mile at this point. And then once I was off meds and everything was going well, I started training, and I ran my first half marathon last October, which was awesome, but also I mean it's running 13 miles, But yeah, it went well, and just being able to really have your life back, to go out and like I can go on hikes, I can go on runs, I can go to the gym, which is the biggest thing. I love
Mm.
weightlifting. I'm able to do that without any worry or wondering, where's the bathroom or anything like that, which is
Mm.
amazing. Undescribable.
Yeah, you've got to, you have to experience it. You can't understand. People don't understand how much better you feel,
Yes.
because a lot of people think, okay, I'll go back to feeling how I did before I got the disease, but it's not that. You actually feel even
No.
better than before you got diagnosed. And
Yeah.
and that's the real beauty of this plant-based diet, and actually just giving the body what it needs to do what it needs to do, and work in the way it's designed to work.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
definitely.
So we'll always do this at the end of all these healing stories, where we discuss a little bit about kind of not only how you are now, but what kind of advice you might give to someone who's kind of sitting there watching this or listening to this on the podcast and thinking, geez, if Josie can do it, maybe I can do it too. Let's kind of hear what you would kind of tell people about your situation and what they can do.
Yeah, my biggest, I guess, piece of advice would be to just go for it. I mean, try eating plant-based. I never, ever thought that I would be where I am today at all. Like I said, my favorite food was a cheeseburger. So definitely go for it. And honestly, like, if I can do it, especially coming from the small town that eats meat and cheese and whatever, like, you can do it. It's scary to start, but it's so worth it. And I really don't share my story with most people. When people say, why do you eat plant-based? I just typically give them the answer of, oh, I just don't feel good. Like, I get sick. And then it's normally like, oh, okay. Like, then it's okay. But yeah, if I can share my story and help anyone out there that's struggling, it's so worth it for sure. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, all of these stories, for everyone watching out there, you got to take inspiration from these people who've done what's considered medically impossible. You just have to, and you have to realize that if they can do it, there's no reason that you can't. You have to put in, obviously you've got to put in the work, and it's not an easy thing to do, but nothing worthwhile ever came easy, did it? I mean, running that half marathon, the training wasn't easy, but it's the reward is there. So kudos to you, and well done, for taking control of your own health, and you're an inspiration to us, but for doing that. It's, just so happy and proud that you've been able to take your life and change it around for the better.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. So for everyone watching, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this on YouTube or listen to on the podcast. Josie, thank you so much. I know it's a very personal thing, and I know it's it's not always easy to share these personal experiences with people, but I think, as I mentioned to you at the beginning of this in this chat, is we need to normalize kind of these discussions. They call it the invisible disease for a reason, because no one knows you have it. Exactly. But if we can have a more robust discussion around not only that people do have it, but we can do something about it, instead of just being told you're going to have this for the rest of your life, then we need to document stories like yours, so that people can be given hope that they too can heal their bodies. So thank you so much again.
Thank you.
For everyone listening on the podcast, please follow the podcast and share this with as many people as you can, so that they can too get that hope that they can get, take control of their own health. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel and click the little bell notification icon, so you're giving updates of all our recent videos. Give Josie a like too. Don't forget, click that like button. If you have any questions, please ask them in the comment section below, and we'll be happy to get to them as soon as we can. But otherwise, take care, everyone. Make sure you eat plants, and lots of them. Take care.
Thank you.